Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Semi-Professional Academic Podcast. As always, I am your host with the most Christmas decorations up already, even though it is early November, Jacob Watts. And joining me today is the absolutely amazing, outstanding OChem goddess herself, Caroline Millard. Caroline, thank you so much and welcome to the Semi-Professional Academic Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and have the opportunity to just talk about my journey in chemistry.
Awesome, so much. That was not a sentence that I just said, but awesome. We'll get into this, but as someone who is chemistry just does not agree with, I find it so impressive to anyone who can do chemistry and do it very well, and Caroline does that so well.
Yeah, in undergrad, I used to say that I was put on this earth to do chemistry, which now well into my PhD program, I do still agree with, and that statement is definitely still true, but I think it's just going to maybe take a different form than I thought it would in undergrad. But I feel like that just comes with knowing and finding out yourself a little bit as you get older and grow. But yeah, chemistry is just something that I've always loved, and to me it really helps explain the way the world works in a way that's interesting to me, unlike like physics or something like that. Like that's just a whole bunch of math that I don't ever want to touch ever again.
I have a very hot take. I don't think physics is real. I really don't think it's real. I think it's all made up, and I think it's just a big conspiracy theory. Mainly because I'm bad at it, but
I mean, no, same. But how do you think it's not real though? Like, is it just like the math? Like you just think that the math is all made up?
well, yeah, because how do we prove math is real? We prove math is real with math.
Oh my God. I didn't even think about that. Proving math is real with math. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow, about to have an existential crisis over here.
Oh, I'm just playing. But crises aside, is that a word? That is a word. I'm gonna say it's a
Yeah,
word.
let's say it's a word.
Yeah. Caroline, before we get too down the road, would you mind just giving the audience just a little brief background introduction about you and who you are?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Caroline, and I'm currently a fourth year PhD candidate at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. And I am in the lab for neglected disease drug discovery, basically just working on synthesizing small molecules against various neglected diseases, co-PI'd by Dr. Lori Ferens and Dr. Michael Plastry. And I did my undergrad with Jacob at Hanover and graduated at the chemistry degree. And then I moved to Boston, and I love it here. And I adopted a little furry friend named Millie, and she is a gremlin and the light of my life. So
I love she is a gremlin and the love of my life. Like that.
yes,
I love
yes,
that so much.
exactly. It's a very love-hate relationship. Mainly love, but there are times where I'm just like, I just need a minute away from you.
That's so real. That's so real. Oh my gosh. I have to tell this story about how like Caroline and I met because I mean Hanover is a very small institution. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like one way or another you meet everyone that goes there.
Hmm.
But and I'm going to brag on Caroline for a little bit because on top of being like an absolute boss at chemistry, Caroline was also a fantastic tennis player.
Oh yeah, I did play tennis. This is true. I forgot about that.
Honestly, I forget that I was on the team for a hot second, but I mean
Oh
everyone.
my gosh, yeah. I completely forgot that you were on the team for a hot second too. I think I might have just blocked out all those memories and of being on the tennis team. Wow.
Same.
Huh.
When I was a freshman, we had just gotten a new coach, and no one had really like introduced the freshmen to the current members of the team. And then the freshmen, at least for the boys teams, was coming in and out. And during the first week, there was a study group. I think Caroline was in, I think you were like in a physics study group, and my bio
Yeah.
study group met
Yeah.
immediately afterward. And I knew of Caroline, but she hadn't like officially met me yet. And I go into the study group because mine's about to go in, and I'm wearing a Hanover tennis shirt. And she looks me up and down and goes, "Hi, Kyle." Completely
That's a very me move. That's such a me move. Yep.
oh, we're not done. We're not done. Because that's
Oh
not
God.
even the
Oh
funny
God.
that's
Oh
not even the
God.
funny part, because I had not met this person. I like had not met Caroline officially. I don't expect her to get my name right at all. And I was just like, "Oh, I'm Jacob." And she goes, "Oh, I completely thought you were Kyle." And I was like, "No, I'm Jacob." She goes, "Well, you look exactly like Kyle." And I was like, I don't think I do. And you double down. It's like, "No, you really do." Like, it's crazy.
I can't even remember this Kyle person that I was referring to. Oh my gosh. But that's such a Caroline move, is to get something completely wrong but be 100% confident in it. Like
Oh,
that's
same.
that is definitely one of my moves. And then it's like, if I'm going to be wrong, then I guess I'm going to be completely wrong and just own it.
I loved it so much because, I don't even blame you for this one, because even the coach and the assistant coach thought me and this Kyle person were twins, and we look nothing alike. We look nothing alike. We were two white guys with blonde
Blonde
hair.
hair. Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure that was it. And that's probably why I was like, oh yeah, Kyle.
Yeah, yeah. We had blonde hair and light eyes, and at the time we had similar builds. So I get why. I get why like you got my name wrong, but like the fact that like half that team legitimately thought Cal and I were twins up until like we were in the same place. I was like, this is insane. We look absolutely nothing alike. I do not know how you guys got twins. I don't even know how you guys got relations, but like I thought it was so funny.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. I'm surprised you remember that. I mean, it's funny, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, it was so funny. And in that moment I was just like, I like her. She has personality. I like that very much.
Well, glad that I have made a lasting impression at least.
Yeah. Oh, it was good. I loved it. I thought it was so funny. Oh my gosh. But speaking of undergrad, we know eventually that you found chemistry, but can you talk us like a little bit of like how you got to like the path of studying chemistry? Like, did you go into undergrad knowing that's what you wanted to do, or did you kind of find that along the way?
Yeah, so I think like most people, I took a chemistry course in high school. I took mine my sophomore year, and I remember really liking that. And I always knew that I wanted to do something as a scientist and be in the sciences, because even in like elementary school, that's the way my mind worked. Like I loved doing science projects. Every time I could, I would be involved in the science fair and all this stuff. And then going into high school, I was paying a little bit closer attention to what like sciences I liked. I took biology, and like that was okay. Like it's just, high school biology, a lot of memorization. There's no real like actual like scientific methodness to it, at least from my perspective. And then I took chemistry, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I like this. And then I took physics, and then I was like, absolutely not. Again, too much math. Like the teacher was just not, like, he was a cool guy, but like not a good teacher. And so it just turned me off. And so then I took like some other like classes here and there and stuff. And then going into undergrad, I thought chemistry was what I wanted to do, but I wasn't going to like limit myself because that's just what I liked in high school. And then I took my Gen Chem with Dr. Cunningham, who is no longer at Hanover, but he was a great professor. I loved him so much. And he kind of really started to ignite that kind of chemistry passion for me. And just in the way that he taught the class and in the way that he talked about chemistry, And so then I was like, yeah, I think this is probably what I want to do. But it really, really clicked for me when I took OChem, which is the opposite of what happens for most people. Most people take OChem and they're just like, absolutely not. I'm done with chemistry. But for me, it was very much like, this is amazing and I want to do this for the rest of my life. And it just the way like we would look at mechanisms of reactions and have such a deep understanding of why reactions went the way that they did was just so cool to me. And so I think from there I was kind of just like, yeah, this is it for me. This is what I want to do. And then I just followed the path from there. And here I am getting my PhD in medicinal chemistry, organic chemistry lab. Yeah.
That's so cool. I remember Caroline was the study group leader for OChem when I
Mm-hmm.
took it. And naturally, unless you're Caroline, apparently, it is such a humbling class, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the professor who taught it at our institution even said that this is not a class where you build your self-esteem. This is a class you survive. And then for at least in my class, we had a joke saying that like that we wish that we loved anything half as much as Caroline loves OChem. Because I I remember I was in FIMU one time with Sydney and
Yeah.
we were talking about OChem and you came down the stairs sprinting and your face was just lit up. It was like, you guys talking about OChem? And I was just like, I want to feel half as passionate about anything in life as Caroline does.
I do definitely have a passion for OChem and chemistry. Which is part of the reason why I'm doing my PhD. When I graduated Hanover, I wasn't done learning about it and I wanted to learn more and experience kind of contributing to the chemistry like research field and everything and just be a part of the chemistry community for sure. And that passion has gotten me through my PhD and almost done. Yeah. And so and I do think I want to find a way to continue that passion, especially with communicating chemistry towards others, because I think that's what I really liked about Hanover and like being a study group leader. And I was also involved in our ACS, American Chemical Society club on campus. It's just, I really liked talking about the chemistry to other people and helping them understand it and have them like see just how cool it is and how just like how cool and how like fun it is to do that. And so I've been doing a lot of things also throughout my PhD to help me sustain that passion, definitely as I'm still doing my research. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I know you kind of like touched on it, but when was the moment for you knowing that like, yeah, I'm going to go to grad school after Hanover's done? Because a lot of people like I will say like it's a very intensive program at Hanover, at least. Like I feel like we got
Yeah. I would say it's intensive. Yeah, just like I would say so from the small liberal arts perspective, I would say that it was an intense program for
yeah.
sure.
I'm just curious as to, like what kind of like turned the switch in your head, be like, yeah, like I want to go do my PhD. Because correct me if I'm wrong, you went straight from undergrad into your PhD, correct?
Yes, I did. I graduated in May 2020 and then started my PhD in September 2020, which
Ooh,
was a hell of a ride, but
yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, here we
um,
are.
yeah, exactly. We made it through. And so I don't think there was really kind of like a moment for me. I think it was kind of always something that I knew I was going to do ever since I kind of learned about it, just due to the fact that I had that passion to keep going and keep understanding more. I do remember though, my mom was very again, I don't want to say against, she was a little hesitant about me getting my PhD because she just wanted me to consider all the options. And she was like, well, you can get a job with like a bachelor's. Like, you don't need to go and do this. And I was like, yes, but I want to keep doing this and I'll get better jobs and make more money. So, yeah. But I don't think there was like a moment. It was just something that like I kind of always knew I was going to do. And I also think for somebody who has as much passion and like as much drive as I did in undergrad, it was almost expected of me to do that, which isn't always the best. I mean, of course, I think that the professors, of course, encouraged me to do it because they saw that in me and they saw that I could do it and things like that. But I know that's not the case for everybody. And even if you have like even if you have that same passion and like drive, if it's not something you want to do, then obviously you can't do it or you shouldn't do it. I would say from my perspective, just because it takes a lot to get you through a PhD. And if you don't have the drive to do it, then I don't think you'll be able to do it. And that's just, I don't know, that's just my reality of it. But people get through all the time. So,
yeah. No, I totally agree. And I definitely want to touch on that a little bit more. But I do have a question about the grad school process for chemistry specifically. Because I know for me, like I did my master's in biology and then I went into a PhD program. And there's a kind of a shift now, at least in biology. I don't know how it is for the departments where a lot of people are skipping the master's, going straight into the PhD, which I guess like my question is, did you rule out the master's first, like entirely? You're like, I just want to go straight into the PhD. I don't want to do the master's. Did you contemplate doing a master's first, or what kind of like was that kind of like decision process for you?
Yeah, so I did think about it for a hot second of doing a master's, but then I always kind of knew that I wanted to do a PhD. So to me, it wouldn't have been like, not that it wouldn't have been worth it. It was like it would take longer for me to get the same end result. And I don't know, a part of me is like wishing that I did do a master's. Especially when I first joined my program, I very much wished that I had done a master's, or had some experience in industry or something, because one thing I learned very, very quickly as coming to my PhD is that the world is a lot bigger than Hanover, Indiana.
Really,
yeah.
crazy.
And like there were people here who had experience in like masters and like years in industry now coming into their PhDs. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, I have absolutely no experience. And I feel like I feel completely like out of place here and everything. And so a part of me does kind of wish I had that a little bit more of that experience before going into a PhD. But I mean, a lot of people go straight for PhDs and it's worked out fine for me. But yeah, I do think with my initial decision, for me, it was like, I'm going to get the end result of a PhD anyway. So I don't want to like go through the extra work of getting my master's first. Because the PhD in my mind was like the top tier. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get the top tier. Like I'm the overachiever that I am. So
I love that so much. I love that mentality. Well, and it seems to be working out just fine. I mean, like you're crushing it. I do this horrible thing where like every now and then I stalk people's like Instagrams and their stories. And I never know like what you're doing half the time, but I'm just like, oh, she's doing great. Like what,
yeah, I'm out here living my life in Boston to the best that I can. Yeah.
And I think that's so impressive too, because I really don't think people understand just how young you are to be getting your PhD, because you graduated undergrad when you were like what, 22?
22, yeah, and I just turned 26 in October. So
That's
yeah, it feels really old to me. But it's
yeah,
really it's young, I'm sure. Just
yeah.
came off my parents' insurance, and I'm very sad about that. So
A travesty.
I know it really is. I hate being an adult.
I do too. I don't like paying rent.
Oh, paying rent sucks, especially in Boston, which is like one of the most expensive cities to live in. And I mean, I love being in a city, and I love the atmosphere of that, the hustle and bustle, like all of that, but it is very expensive. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not like struggling. The stipend pays enough, but it is expensive.
I love a stipend. I love this stipend, I should say. In my master's, and this is like some tea, we were not allowed, we were legally not allowed to have a second job from our contract.
Really? I
Yeah.
don't think we are either actually for a PhD.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like legally allowed, but like I know it's very discouraged. I don't
I
know if they like had to I don't know if we had to sign a contract, but it's yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
In my master's, in our contract, like when we got like our assistantships, we were not allowed to have a second job.
Wow.
And our stipend per month was only $1,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
That's insane.
oh yeah, I know. I know. Looking back
And
on,
where were you living at the time?
I was living in Charleston, Illinois. So it wasn't like a huge city, but I mean,
But still, per month, only $1,000? Dang.
before taxes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
So
That's right.
it
But
was
hey, you made it through. Here we are.
made it through. So like the PhD stipend definitely pays better.
Yeah, for
but
sure. For sure.
but yeah, a lot of people don't realize that like I technically broke the law, like not broke the law, but I broke my contract in the summer because I did work. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and for those of you who
You
don't
have
know,
to live. Like, you have to, like, be able to feed yourself and pay rent and also, like, have fun doing various social things,
yeah,
like, you have to be able to do things and live your life. So
literally,
even if you are a graduate student.
yeah. Oh my gosh. This is like kind of off topic, but my in the first 2 years of grad school, so like the entirety of my master's, I TA'd a bunch of like either younger Gen Z or like Gen Alpha. I'm not sure where the cutoff goes,
Yeah.
but I was born in '99, so I'm like the last of the '90s children. And my students one time asked me, I'll never forget this. This is like haunts me to my core. They asked me, what was it like in a time before phones? They thought I was so old that I predated phones. And I was like, I was born in 1999. And they go, yeah, like the 1900s.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
Not the 1900s.
and
Oh
I
my gosh.
and I was like, I am 22 years old. Why are you doing this to me?
If it makes you feel better, I was recently out at a bar in Boston. And I will admit, it was a bar that is known to have a younger crowd. But we were talking with some of these girls in line to get into the bar, and they were like, oh my gosh, like, are your guys' IDs like scanning, like all this stuff, whatever. So, like, obviously they were under 21. And then I looked at this one girl and I was like, I'm 26. Like, I don't have to worry about this crap. And then she looks me dead in the eyes and goes, oh my God, you look so good for being 26.
Oh my god. Oh,
Yeah. And I was
oh my
just like,
god.
thanks.
Oh my god.
I have
Not,
this like
not
18-year-old telling me I look good for being 26. And I'm like, oh my God.
not to look good for your age. Oh my god. I don't I don't think I'd oh my gosh. Like I would take that as such a backhanded compliment.
I
Like
know. I didn't even know how to react. And I was just like, okay, maybe this is a sign that I shouldn't be here, but oh my God.
20.
Oh, it's a fun story to tell.
I mean, 26 is so young. It is so.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't feel it, but it is. It is in the big scheme of things. Yeah.
Yeah. The prefrontal cortex is not even fully developed for sure.
Yeah.
Like they're thinking it now more finishes towards like 27, 28. For me, it's going to be 35. But because I don't want that
I'm
responsibility.
getting there. I'm almost at that fully formed whatever. I'm not a biologist.
Yeah, happens. But from like an undergrad perspective, like because I'm 24 now, like 24, 25, 26 seems a long ways down, like longer down the way, like when you're 18 and you have no idea.
For sure.
But
For sure. I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, when I'm done with my PhD, I'm going to be like 27, 28. I'm going to be like, and I was like, oh my God, that's so old. Like, what am I going to have done with my life? Is that too old to be starting a career and like all this stuff? And now I'm just like, we're just vibing. We'll see what happens. We'll get through.
hey, I'm telling you this, there was a 30-year-old in my master's program.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, and killing it. And I think a lot of people don't understand it as just like, especially nowadays, like I'm the youngest one in my PhD cohort and I did a whole master's first.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. My cohort was so small because of COVID. But I was one of the few that came straight from undergrad to PhD. And so I think I was the youngest in my cohort as well. And I think another thing that people don't really realize is that like, especially in academia, you have to really like establish yourself and you have to like almost put in the time, which takes like time, and like you need to be able to I don't know, just like almost build up your reputation. And that's why we have a bunch of these like, older chemists that are like like older PIs and older like people that are in charge of all these programs and stuff. And at least within what I've seen actually within the American Chemical Society is a lot of initiatives to kind of bring more leadership roles to younger chemists. Especially there's a committee in the American Chemical Society called the Younger Chemist Committee that my PI is on. And I think you have to be like under 35 or something to be on it and stuff like that. And then I'm actually a part of the executive board of what's called NSYCC, which is the Northeastern section of the Younger Chemist Committee of the American Chemical Society. There's a lot of acronyms, but I'm trying to get them all. And so it's been good. It's been nice to kind of connect with chemists that are closer to my age within the local section of the Northeast area.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, because when you're surrounded by people who just have been on this earth longer, naturally they're going to have more experience. They're going to be more established.
Yeah.
And that got to me a lot during my master's because there were people who were like 26, 27, 28, 30 during the master's, and they have like all this knowledge and experience. And then I'm just like, wow, I know fucking nothing. I don't deserve to be here.
That I feel like is the start of any graduate program for sure. Because I think it's just very jarring when you start because you're just like, I graduated, I have a degree, like I know things. And then you start your graduate program or whatever, and then you're just like, oh my God, I know nothing, because your world, at least for me, your world just expanded so much. And because of that, it's just it's a beautiful thing. Like, you get to experience and learn about all this other different science, but then at the same time, it's super overwhelming because you're like, oh my God, there's all this stuff that I don't know. And I thought I knew so much. So that's definitely some imposter syndrome that is a sneaky little bitch, but
I feel like imposter syndrome is just like a canon event in any academic field at this point.
It is for sure. And I think it's also a canon event to start to recognize when it is your imposter syndrome and then take steps to, I don't know, steps to like really work on combating it, I guess. At least that's what it has been for me in the past couple years. Cause when I first started my PhD program, it was in the middle of COVID. I had moved 15 hours away from everybody that I knew. And I like to a brand new city and I was super overwhelmed. And then starting everything, my first grade in graduate school was a D. And I had never gotten a D in my life. And I was just like, what the hell am I doing here? And I felt like everybody else knew exactly what they were doing and I didn't do anything. And like we talked earlier about how I had this passion for specifically organic chemistry and everything. But when at my program, we got to do rotations for different labs we wanted to be in. And my first rotation was in an electrochem lab because I thought that I wasn't good enough to be in an organic chemistry lab. And that was big for me because I mean, if anybody knows me, they know that, I love chemistry and I love organic chemistry, but it was a little bit like looking back on it, it seems stupid, but at the time I was just like, I really thought I couldn't do it. And then I did that rotation and it was fine, whatever. It wasn't my cup of tea, but I enjoyed it. And then I did a rotation in the current lab that I'm in, which is a synthetic organic lab. And like that passion and everything just came back right away. And I am very fortunate to have a PI that I felt comfortable kind of talking to these things about. And she said that like, we haven't had somebody come in and rotate and like do as much as you did in a while. And you are definitely like a fit for this lab. And yeah. And so then I just kind of at that point knew that that was the lab that I wanted to be in. And it was the lab that I had really connected with. I talked earlier about how I wanted a female PI. That was something that was really important to me. I wanted a strong female mentor to look up to. And so I had that. And my lab's a little different because it's kind of co-PI'd. It's not, the person that started the lab is no longer really involved in the lab anymore. And so there's been somebody else who's kind of taken over, but they're still both on the names of the lab. But my real mentor is Lori Ferrens, who is one of the leaders of the lab. And I absolutely love her. She is the best. Yeah.
That's so awesome. What's it like having not just like another woman in STEM, like consistently in the workplace, but what's it like to have like that? I don't know how to correctly word this, but like that more established female like presence to look at and go to for advice.
Yeah, it's definitely given me, I feel like, a lot of confidence. And I do think I had confidence to begin with, but it definitely hasn't like diminished that. Cause I feel like you hear stories about women, particularly and minorities, going into graduate schools and then getting kind of like almost beaten down because of just various situations, and maybe they just don't feel comfortable talking to their PI about it, or their PI is the issue and various things like that. But I feel like me being able to have that open communication with my PI has allowed me to grow not only as a scientist, but as a person in terms of just like professionalism and confidence in being a woman in STEM for sure. There's been times where my confidence and boldness have gotten me into a little bit of trouble, but it's something that it's always a learning process. And that's been something that I feel like Lori has really taught me, is that like every single situation you can learn from. And it's a very kind of just positive environment where we're always learning. There's no like blame. It's more just like, I don't know, it's just a very positive and supportive group. And that is something that I love, because I feel like OChem labs in particular get a very kind of like negative reputation, because it's like the reputation is you're always in the lab like 24/7, 12-hour work days, you're working weekends, you're working holidays, and like if you don't know every single mechanism for every single reaction that has ever been made, then you're a failure, like that type of thing. But and that's what I thought it was, honestly, going into graduate school. But then being exposed to this lab and to like a couple other different labs too, I realized, oh, that's not the case. Like, this is not a blame placing lab. This is oh, you don't know this. Let's analyze why, or let's analyze this, like why, not like why you don't know this, but let's analyze why or like what the problem is, what the mental block is, and then let's work to overcome it type thing.
Love it. Sounds like such a healthy environment. I love that so much.
It really is. And I'm very fortunate every day about it.
You might have mentioned this and my brain is just not computing, so I apologize. But when you were looking at programs, like applying, what drew you to like Boston and like the area that you're in now? Like what drew you to that school specifically, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no, of course. It's definitely a very important decision when you're thinking of graduate school. What drew me to this university most was honestly Boston. After 4 years of Hanover, Indiana, I decided that that was not what I wanted to be in for the foreseeable future. And so I was done with rural towns. I was done with the Midwest. I wanted to get out. And so I looked at cities mainly. And I got accepted I looked at Northeastern's program. All the advice, like when you're looking for graduate school, is like find at least 3 labs you want within like the program, because, if you don't get your first pick, it's like bad or whatever. And I, against my better judgment, really only had interest in one lab, which is the lab that I'm currently in at Northeastern. And so I applied anyway, and I was like, it'll be fine. Like, who knows if I'll get in, whatever. I got in. And I think really what sold me on Northeastern was the visits to Boston. And I traveled by myself, and I kind of set a personal goal for myself. Boston is known for their public transit, and they have a really good like subway system, bus system, and everything. And so I told myself, if I can get from the airport to my hotel without using an Uber, then I know that I can like make it in the city and be fine. And I did it. And I kind of proved that to myself. And that was kind of, I think, my like hesitancy about being in a city. And I felt very independent, and it was exactly what I wanted. And so I decided that was what I wanted to do. And even though there was only really one lab that I was interested in, okay, that's false. There were 2 labs that I could have seen myself in, but like the lab that I'm currently in was the lab that I really wanted. And then in terms of like a Northeastern standpoint, Boston is where a lot of the pharmaceutical companies are also. Like we have GSK, we've got AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, just to name a couple. And there's a lot of like innovative science that's happening here. And so one thing that Northeastern does is a co-op program, and they do it. It's required for all undergraduates to do one, but it's not required for graduate students, but it's an opportunity. And actually within like the next 6 months or so, I'm actually going to be doing a co-op as a graduate student.
Oh, cool.
Which is something that I don't feel like you hear a lot about. And being somebody who has come from only an academia background and like only had exposure to that, I think this is going to be really important for me going forward, so that I can see what the kind of industry side is like, because I know that I don't want to do academia as a like career, just because that's just way too much for me. And so I think it's going to be really cool for me to kind of get that perspective of chemistry and see that side of it. And so that's also something that really drew me to Northeastern.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's so cool. Like all that. And I honestly think that's so impressive. Like how you set like that goal for yourself, be like, I have to see myself like living here. I have to see myself like in a position to succeed. Cause I know a lot of people who go to grad programs and get in, which is impressive. Like, don't get me wrong,
Yeah, yeah.
but don't factor into like if they can actually be happy and succeed there.
Hmm.
And they end up dropping out of the program, moving.
Yeah,
It's a mess.
yeah.
I think that's so impressive how like you were like, I'm setting this for myself. I'm gonna figure it in like this. I find that so impressive.
Yeah, it was, and it's definitely met my like when I was an undergrad and like, thinking about like my future living in my 20s, like the romanticizing it, I always was like, oh, I'm gonna live in a big city, I'm gonna have an apartment by myself, and like I'm gonna be in graduate school doing research. That's all I want to do. And like then I came and visited Boston, and like that was, I could see myself doing that, and here I am doing it. So like, you know
Great.
yeah, little hair
Killing it.
flip, I'm doing it.
Killing it. That's so awesome. No, I would be, I'm gonna embarrass myself a little bit, but I think you'll appreciate this. So I grew up very like rural Indiana. So if you think Hanover, think rural than that, more rural than that.
Oh Lord.
So it was a good adjustment. And then like my master's is like a little bit bigger. But for my PhD, I was like, I want to go to like a city. I want to be able to like walk to school. I want to be able to
Yeah. Hmm.
fully like do everything like XYZ. I want to have like my own apartment in a big city. Like I'll like very much that. And so like when I got a great apartment, like first one I looked at, UK was my number one choice. And I did not play it cool at all during the thing. Like I literally emailed my PI and I was like, this is my number one choice. So whatever I needed to show you guys to like let me in, let me know and I'll do it. Like
I love it.
it was just not, I'm a very unhinged person and I'm very unhinged to get what I want. So
I love that. I love that for you.
thank you. And the very first day that like, it's all coming together, I got like the apartment in the big city in the grad program in my 20s doing research. I was blaring like Welcome to New York the entire way
Yes.
to
Oh my gosh. I love that. Taylor's version just came out. I just got the vinyl. Oh my God.
I oh same. Which one did you get? I got
I
this.
got the sky blue one. It was a birthday gift from my boyfriend. And so, which I'm actually really excited about because it's like the original like cover, which like I don't know. I love it. I love it so much. I love it so much. I'm just now kind of getting into vinyls and everything. I have three of them. They are all Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
And I've just had so much. I've literally just been playing the side with the Volt songs on repeat. So
they are so good.
they're so good. I love them so much. Every time I go to like listen to something else that's not 1989 Taylor's version, I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. I need to go back.
Yeah, same. 1989 is like my favorite album of hers.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think
Nice.
mine is Evermore. I'm an Evermore folklore girly, but I don't know. This one's really just hitting differently for me. I think it did when it first came out, and I don't know if it's just like I'm at a different point in my life or like just what it is, but it's been it's been hitting hard, and I'm just like, yes, I'm here for it.
Same. It's been my favorite album since I was 15.
Oh
And
wow.
so I it's amazing. And I I'm just gonna say it, the best entire collection of Vault songs out of any of the re-recordings.
I don't know
It-
if I agree with that. I think
I,
that the best collection might be Red.
okay.
But
Are you
I like also a Red girly as well, and I think that when Red Taylor, and I have to admit when Red Taylor's version came out, I was going through some shit, and like that was perfect for it. And so I think I have a little bit of sentimental attachment to that album because of what I was going through. So I'm probably a little biased. But I have said, and I literally just said this today. I said like the more that I listen to these Vault songs, the more that I'm understanding that people are saying that like these are the best Vault songs. And
Mhm.
so like I get it, but it can't be mine.
Valid. I still say All Too Well 10-minute version is the best Vault song overall.
Well, of course, yes, it's iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic. Yeah.
Okay. I can literally talk about Taylor Swift all day, but
Oh, me too.
we have to get back. We'll talk more later. But
It sounds good.
you brought up something that I kind of want to touch on because I think a lot of times when people hear that like you're going to grad school, they immediately think you're going to be a professor or you're going to continue into academia, which
Yeah.
we both
Yeah.
know is just not true.
Yes.
So I gotta ask, were you always like, I want to get my PhD, but I don't want to go into academia as a career? Like, were you thinking about it, or what was your initial thoughts on it, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. So I think in undergrad, when I knew that I wanted to do a PhD, I think I wanted to originally go into academia, and I was like, I'm going to have my own lab and I'm going to inspire the next generation of chemists. And that's just what I wanted to do. And then I actually did an internship at the University of Pittsburgh in an organic lab. And then I realized that is not what I want to do. I saw the environment of it, and it was just not, it wasn't what I expected it to be. And it's actually, I think, a part of the reason why it kind of tore me away from organic labs to begin with, just because it wasn't a very healthy environment. After that, I kind of thought like maybe academia isn't for me. And then as I've gone on with my PhD, you get exposed to more of the academia process, like writing grants and meeting deadlines for those grants and just the stress that comes along with it. And that's just not what I really want to do. Like, it's very stressful, and I don't feel like I have the vision to drive the projects in a way that a PI needs to, which is completely fine. And like that's just not for me. And since I kind of ruled out academia, the only really other talked about career path is industry. And so I thought I was going to do industry for a while. And it wasn't really up until probably the last year or so when I'm actually coming towards the end of my PhD and really thinking about what I want to do. Did I kind of think, I was like, sorry, that's my cat. And I was thinking, what else? There has to be other things else out there that you can do with a chemistry PhD that's not academia and that's not industry. There has to be. And so I did some research and found out that there's like patent law that you can do. There's science policy. There's, oh gosh, what's it called? It's like, oh, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically like selling different like it's convincing investors to invest in a company in like a scientific like biotech type thing. I know it's VC, but I don't remember what it's actually called. But yeah, and so I was looking into kind of these like quote non-traditional chemistry careers. And I think that I looked into it to see different things because I really for a hot minute there didn't really know what I wanted to do after my PhD because I hadn't really thought past that point. It was always just like PhD. What do you do when you're done with your PhD? Or what do you do? It was all just about that and not about past that. But I talk to a lot of people kind of in these non-traditional careers, and I have tried to also bring light to the opportunities outside of academia and industry through the various institutions that or the various kind of like groups and outreach programs that I do. And it's been fun and good. And I am involved with things like science policy, and I also took a class about like patent law and things like that just to see what that was like. But I will say I'm kind of leaning now towards doing a industry job and working at the bench for a year or so, and then transitioning into a more managerial position with eventually working and like getting experience to where I can then have the career path of being the person that like sells the science to people who are not science, the VC people, which ironically is the one that I cannot remember the name for, but we all know how good I am with names. So
I mean, there's a new acronym for like everything. Like,
yeah.
and
So that's kind of my take on it. And like my advisor was also very helpful in not pushing me to go one way or the other and wanting me to really find what I want to do. So
we love that. We love that so much.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so cool. Caroline, I have just one final question for you. I've been ending every episode of season 2 with this, so hopefully my viewers catch on. If not, we're too late.
If not, catch on now.
But if you could go back in time and tell yourself just one thing about let's just keep it to your professional academic career, what would you tell younger you and why?
Oh, that's a good one. I think I would tell my younger self that it's okay not to know things, and not knowing things is actually good. And just that, like, not knowing things is what drives just science and learning in general. And that's what this is all about. It's about learning. It's not about knowing. It's about learning. And I think that's important. And that's definitely a lesson I've learned during my PhD. And I think if people knew that going into their PhD, then it would be something that I think would help ease a lot of stress. Cause you almost have to prove yourself to get a PhD, like you apply, I didn't have to interview, but some programs have to interview, and like, you have to prove to yourself that you can prove to other people that you can do this. And so then you get in, and then they're like, oh wait, actually you don't know anything. So, and like, then you feel like shit about it because you're like, I don't know anything, but that's actually good because that's why you're there, is to learn.
I love how you worded that. It's not about knowing, it's about learning. And I think that's something I think all academics learn eventually. I mean, I'm still learning that, but yeah, I feel like a lot of times we're fed this thing to where, oh, you got to kill it in undergrad and know things so that you can prove yourself in grad school. And then like when, you get to grad school, because it's grad school, you don't know anything, and then you blame yourself for not knowing.
Yeah. It's definitely a mentality of, you are expected to know in academia, and you're expected to, you're just like, it's very much that kind of like pressure to know everything and to be able to recite it at a drop of a hat and stuff like that. But it's definitely important to remind yourself that if you're not learning, and if you already knew everything, then you wouldn't be here. And you just wouldn't be in this position, and you wouldn't be in this program doing what you're doing. And so that's why you're doing it, is to learn.
Period. Caroline, thank you so much again for coming on the show and sitting down and talking with us. I really appreciate it.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here and to catch up with you. This has been great.
Thank you. Thank you. And before we head out, is there anything else you would like to tell the audience before we wrap?
I don't think so. I think besides like always a plug of Miss Taylor Swift, go listen to 1989 Taylor's version. But other than that, no, just hope everybody has a good day, and that they're enjoying their academic journey.
You're so kind and polite. Oh my gosh.
I try to be, or that you can be anything, be kind. So just be kind and positive.
I love that. I love that so much. All right. Well, thank you, Caroline. And to everyone at home, do that. Or if you're like me, be the problem. I don't know. Yeah. As always, I am your host, Jacob Watts, and I look great for 24. Have a good night, everyone. See you next week. Bye.